pretty.
All right, hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
All right. Yahuwah, we just ask as we come before you, Father, forgive us for our sins, transgressions, and iniquity. We just ask that you bless everyone that's up here on this class, Father. We ask that you open up our eyes so that we can have understanding. We thank you for your grace. We thank you for your kindness. We thank you, Father, for your love. We also thank you for your ultimate love gift, Yahushua HaMashiach. And we thank you, Father. In his name we pray. In Yahushua's name we pray. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
We're gonna go ahead and we got a video we're gonna watch first. And because I gotta go to work, so class gonna be kind of short. But we're gonna get into this video. And this is gonna continue from last week. All right, and we're just gonna pick up from where we was at last week as we get to we get going. All right, this is gonna be a real good video. Oh snap! Hold on a minute. I gotta do this. Hold on. I almost messed up.
A sacred mountain shrouded in mystery for centuries. Resting on the brink of revelation, Mount Sinai, the holy mountain where God gave Moses the 10 Commandments, thought for centuries to be on the Sinai Peninsula in Egypt. Could it be we've been wrong all this time? Biblical explorer Bob Cornuke and his companion Larry Williams embark on a journey that will change their lives forever, finding evidence leading to what could be the real Mount Sinai. Fascinating and remarkable, says National Geographic Television. The most likely site for Mount Sinai, says Newsweek, and Coach Bill McCartney said it was the most powerful thing I've ever seen. The search for the real Mount Sinai.
The fate of the lost Ark of the Covenant is perhaps the greatest mystery of all time. The gold box built to carry the Holy 10 Commandments at Mount Sinai, the powerful vessel God used to level mountains, lay waste to entire cities, and destroy armies. The holy relic with unspeakable power suddenly and mysteriously disappears from recorded history. For hundreds of years, explorers and archaeologists have given their lives to find the Ark, and nations, kings, and rulers have all sought to possess it for themselves. Some believe that if it could be found, they could possess its great power, and others believe that if it was discovered, it would set in motion a chain of prophetic events that would bring about the end of the world. Journey with us on an expedition that unearths startling new information on the exact location of the Ark. We will take you to a mysterious stone city and to an elusive protected island inhabited only by monks. And you'll see the guardian of the Ark, believed to be charged by God to protect it till the day he dies. Like a detective story, history opens up its hidden secrets to reveal a stunning trail of evidence that unlocks an age-old mystery.
Now we're looking at this because I want y'all to see how these people are searching all over the place for these artifacts and stuff. We know that the book of Baruch tells us that the messengers took the ark back up to the heavens. We also know that it's nobody but Levi can actually touch the ark without destruction coming. We know that. So we know the ark is not here, but I just want you guys to see this video because I want you to see where they end up looking for.
It began for me by accident.
Graham Hancock is a respected journalist and a best-selling author. As a correspondent for The Economist, he was assigned to the region of East Africa where his work regularly took him to Ethiopia. There he stumbled on a legend that would forever change his life.
And I started hearing stories about a tradition concerning the Ark of the Covenant. And my curiosity was provoked, and I started to investigate the subject. And this investigation just drew me on over the years into a total absorption with a single question: does Ethiopia have the Ark of the Covenant?
He documented his findings in his best-selling book, The Sign and the Seal.
I got a copy of The Sign and the Seal by Graham Hancock, and it presented a very unique theory. And as I researched this book, I saw that it pointed to Ethiopia as a very strong candidate.
Bob Cornuke is the president of the Bible Archaeology Search and Exploration Institute. His mission is to investigate archaeological discoveries and sites around the world that confirm and support the claims of the Bible. His work on the location of the real Mount Sinai grabbed the interest of scholars and made news headlines worldwide. So when Cornuke heard of the possibility that the Ark could still exist today, he couldn't dismiss it.
So I had to go search for this object. I assembled a team, we went to Ethiopia, and we searched for the mysterious Ark of the Covenant.
Our search begins on the other side of the world, in Ethiopia. Set in the mountainous region of the continent lies the oldest Christian nation in Africa. Isolated in its highlands sits the remote, dusty village of Aksum. This village has remained virtually untouched by the outside world for thousands of years, and its people are gracious and hospitable. Theirs is a village much like any of the others in this part of Africa, except for one thing. They believe that they possess the most holy relic on earth, the Ark of the Covenant.
This village is very remote, it's very archaic, and it's like going back thousands of years in time.
Scholars in general, biblical scholars, historians, academics, don't feel that there's any merit to the Ethiopian claim. I should add that this is largely people who've never been to Ethiopia themselves and really have no idea what the claim is based on, but there's just a feeling on the part of academics that such an important object as the Ark of the Covenant couldn't possibly have found its way to this remote corner of Africa.
Those that would doubt the theory of the Ark of the Covenant in Ethiopia have not been in Ethiopia and seen the people worship this object. They are committed. There's over 50 million people that believe that the Ark of the Covenant is there. This isn't just some loose legend that just sprung or came about. I think it has to have some basis in history, because these people have a firm belief that the Ark of the Covenant is there.
But why do these villagers believe this? Is it only myth, or is there any truth to their claim? Their legends speak of one of their most famous rulers, the Queen of Sheba, whose beauty captured the heart of the Israelite King Solomon himself. They had a son named Menelik, who, according to their tradition, stole the ark and returned it as a gift to his mother in Aksum.
There's huge problems with this tradition, one of the biggest being that the city of Aksum did not exist in the time of Solomon. It did not exist. The archaeology of the site is very, very clear. It's a city that started to be built up from about the 2nd century before Christ, certainly not in the 10th century before Christ. And it was natural of academics to dismiss this story.
But the people of Ethiopia don't dismiss it. In fact, they not only believe the Ark rests there today, but they honor its sacred demands and give their lives in serving this holy object. This entire culture reveres its power, and its worship is central to their faith.
They worship daily. They migrate from miles around and come every day to this temple, and they give their lives in worship to what they believe to be the Ark of the Covenant. I could see the people wrapped in their white robes, journeying and migrating to the chapel of St. Mary's of Zion, where they would worship. They follow a very old style of Orthodox Christianity.
This strange country in the highlands of Africa, which practices an amazingly Old Testament form of religion, both in terms of Christianity and, oddly enough, Judaism, because there has been a traditional Judaic presence in Ethiopia for a very long time, that this country claims to possess the Ark of the Covenant. Every single church in Ethiopia, there's more than 20,000 of them, contains a replica of the Ark of the Covenant in its Holy of Holies. And these replicas are so important that if they're removed from the church, then the church is considered to be deconsecrated.
The priest, covered by the umbrella, has just been inside the Holy of Holies in a church containing only a replica of the Ark. Even a replica is thought to be so holy that men gather around to be touched and blessed by him.
How do we account for this? What I think has happened is this. Ethiopia does possess the Ark of the Covenant, but it didn't get to Ethiopia in the way that the traditional story has it. It came much later, by a totally different and absolutely reasonable historical route, and it eventually found its way to Aksum.
Jerusalem, considered by millions to be the holiest city on earth. Politically unstable and religiously volatile, this ancient city continues to this day to be a source of much intrigue. The magnificent Temple of King Solomon was built here nearly 3,000 years ago. It was arrayed like no other structure on earth and was central to the worship life of Israel. Now little of its former glory remains. This excavated western wall is one of its last remnants.
Remember last week, they proved and they showed and proved last week that this is not the temple site. This is what these people are calling it, right? Because we learned that that was the Fort Antonio, right? That was where the Sharif, the High Sharif was at, or the police station, the Roman soldiers.
Known as the Wailing Wall, it attracts Jews from all over the world to offer prayers for a rebuilt temple and a restored way of life. Thousands of prayers are offered on tiny pieces of paper and are placed in this 3,000-year-old wall. They testify to a nation longing to return to worship in the ancient temple and to a hope of a new temple to be built on this holy site. Now, where Solomon's great temple once stood, there rests the Mosque of Omar, the third most holy site in all Islam. This rare footage, gained by special permission, shows its elaborate architecture and imposing design. But below the dome lies the real mystery. This rock was once the highest point in Old Jerusalem. It was once the very floor of Solomon's temple, and in its core was a room called the Holy of Holies. This room was the center of the temple, only accessible by the high priest. In this room, and some say on this very rock, sat the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord. According to the Bible, this was the last recorded location of the Ark.
The focal point in the Holy of Holies really was the Ark of the Covenant. But the focal point of the Ark of the Covenant was the mercy seat, that flat spot on top of the lid of the Ark of the Covenant. We know it was the focal point of the Ark of the Covenant because by God's own instructions, that was the very spot, the very place where the cherubim were to focus their gaze, the cherubim that were represented on top of the Ark of the Covenant.
The Bible chronicles that the Ark of the Covenant was built at Mount Sinai, the holy mountain where God descended to give Moses the 10 Commandments. It was a wooden box about 4 feet long, 2 feet high, and 2 feet wide. The entire box was covered, inside and out, with pure gold. The lid was a special thick slab of gold called the mercy seat, and was crowned by the powerful figures of 2 winged angels called the cherubim. When its construction was complete, it would house the 10 Commandments given to Moses on the top of Mount Sinai, and between the golden cherubim, God's very power would dwell.
And it wasn't until blood was sprinkled by the high priest on the mercy seat, on that spot on the lid of the Ark of the Covenant, that God's wrath was satisfied by the blood of a substitute. It was an extremely grave operation. The high priest had to be pure. He didn't dare go in without a rope tied around him that his body might be dragged out should he be struck dead in the presence of the Lord.
You notice that? See, that's why you got to pay attention when you watch these videos. Because remember, we proved there is no scripture saying that the high priest had a rope tied around his waist. But this is what they do when they do these videos. They give you some truth. They give you a lot of truth, but they also try to interject this Jewish stuff in it. So you got to kind of really pay attention to what they're saying.
But God, in His grace and His mercy, provided this means within the law of His wrath being propitiated, being satisfied by blood being sprinkled over the law or above the law.
This holy object was so powerful, the Bible records, that it parted the waters of a mighty river.
Now, did you notice what He called the 10 Commandments? He said, over the what? The law.
Destroyed enemy armies, and if not handled according to God's holy specifications, destroyed those who touched it or who looked upon it. For the high priests of Israel, meeting God's presence at the Ark of the Covenant to atone for sin was central to Israel's worship. Today, Jerusalem is a city that has been thoroughly excavated. As Kornuk walked around the old city of Jerusalem, the remains testified to the hundreds of years of archaeological research. It seemed unlikely that the Ark could still be here. Throughout history, the Ark of the Covenant has been sought after by archaeologists, adventurers, rulers, and kings. Numerous theories as to its whereabouts have surfaced.
One theory concerns the pharaoh Shishak, who certainly led an army into the Holy Land soon after the time of Solomon. And it's been suggested that he may have taken the Ark and brought it back to Egypt. And in fact, that's the basis of the scenario in the Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark movie.
Some believe that it was destroyed by the Babylonians when they invaded Jerusalem. The Bible records the detailed manifests of what was stolen from Israel. Items like knives, door hinges, and lamps are listed. But the most important item, the Ark of the Covenant, is never mentioned.
Another theory is that it was taken under the Temple Mount somewhere and secreted away because of the extensive network of tunnels and quarry tunnels underneath the Temple Mount. In fact, just within the last few years, a particular rabbi in Jerusalem was caught periodically digging under the Temple Mount toward the Holy of Holies, which would be under, of course, the Dome of the Rock Mosque. And his little workings there were all cemented up and safeguarded because it would have caused just a huge international political incident for him to continue.
There have been many people that have claimed to have seen the Ark of the Covenant, some of them underneath the Temple Mount. Others have claimed that it's in the area of Mount Nebo. But none of these have been substantiated, and none of them, I think, are credible.
We need to require evidence. We need to require a sound mind, a level head.
Here at the Wailing Wall, we see a bar mitzvah of a group of Ethiopian boys. Unique because they are Jewish Ethiopians.
If you remember, if you know anything about any history, in the 1980s, Operation Moses was when they went into Ethiopia and took out the Falashas, right? These people still was eating unleavened bread and all kind of stuff. They still was doing everything the way that they were supposed to be doing it. When they got to Jerusalem, you see what they did to them. They took them and they made them Jewish. And then the other ones had to join the army. And then right now, they won't, I mean, it's the same thing. They won't hire them for jobs. They're homeless all over the place in the parks. So this is what, so you got to understand what you're looking at. This is what they did. So when it was a newspaper clipping, my father had it. And what happened was when the rabbis came to these people, they didn't even believe that he was a Hebrew. They was like, we ain't never seen no white Hebrew before in our life. And they told him that they was from the tribe of Dan. But this is what they did. This is what they do. So now they've taken them and they've taken them out of their original worship, and they put them up under this Jewish thing.
Ethiopians called Falashas, or Beta Israel. After a major exodus to Israel in a special airlift called Operation Moses in 1989, all remaining Falashas left Ethiopia. Their existence is physical proof that an ancient Jewish community existed in Ethiopia. Their origins remain a complete mystery.
We're doing a documentary.
Dr. Sholva Weil is a local scholar and expert on the black Ethiopian Jews. She met with Bob Cornuke at the Hebrew University to discuss them.
And here in Israel there are about 65, not about, there are exactly 65,000 Jews of Ethiopian origin living in Israel today. And there's one theory that the Ethiopian Jews are simply descendants of Jews who lived in Egypt and remained there, and then years later wandered further south through Nubia and got to Ethiopia.
See how slick she did, how she was slick talking right there? Because she's trying to say like they remained in Egypt. The book doesn't say that anybody, the book does not say that Hebrews remained in Egypt. Egypt was torn to pieces. Everybody left out of there. But she's going to send them through Nubia and all these other places, because that's the only way that they can. In other words, they're trying to say, okay, this is why they're black and we're white. That's the only way they can explain it away, because otherwise, I mean, who are you? See, this is what you got to understand when you watch these things. But they give you truth, because here you are looking at the tribe of Dan. Stuff is incredible.
Bob asked Dr. Weil about the African claim that they have possessed the Ark of the Covenant for some time in Aksum, Ethiopia.
Jews all over the world, and other religions too, it's not just Jews, relate to the Ark of the Covenant as a sacred item. There is definitely a very strong legend that Ethiopian Christians possess the Ark of the Covenant.
The Temple Institute is a sect of Jews intent on seeing the rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem. Cornuke wondered if they could shed some light on the Ark's whereabouts.
We have no real concrete information. And I can't speculate because I can give you stories, historically speaking, that people have written about and talked about. But to be concrete, to be 100%, comfortable with of giving you honest proof, black and white, it's not available.
See, what I needed to find was a viable, workable, historical route that could have brought the Ark of the Covenant to Ethiopia, and that could have brought it to Axum at a time when Axum did exist.
Hancock delved into his research. Studying the biblical text and examining Jewish tradition, he came upon a particularly troubling and violent time in Israel's history, one that may have led to the Ark being removed for safekeeping.
Around 650 BC, a monarch had sat on the throne of Israel, Manasseh, who was completely different from all of his predecessors. In fact, he's reviled in the Bible for having abandoned the traditional Judaic faith and for having installed a pagan idol in the Holy of Holies of the temple, the ultimate abomination, an Asherah, a pagan idol in the Holy of Holies.
This would have infuriated the loyal priests. He actually practiced sorcery and wizardry, even sacrificed his son in the temple. The loyal priests wouldn't have allowed this to happen if the Ark of the Covenant was there.
And I talked to many biblical scholars about this matter, and they all agreed that for those priests who were loyal to the traditional ancient religion of Judaism, it would have been completely unacceptable and impossible for the Ark of the Covenant to remain in a Holy of Holies that had been defiled by the presence of a pagan idol, and that there would have been a very powerful motive for the Ark's priesthood to remove the Ark of the Covenant at that time.
It would have been taken out to a safe place, somewhere else, away from Jerusalem, away from this king who is evil and wicked.
But where was the Ark taken? Graham's research uncovered an extraordinary development, evidence of a site on the Nile River in Egypt, seemingly designed to house the Ark of the Covenant.
A Jewish temple was built outside of Jerusalem during the First Temple period. Now this is an extraordinarily important development, because during the First Temple period there would seem to be no justification whatsoever for the construction of a temple anywhere outside of Jerusalem. As a matter of fact, if you look at the biblical texts on this, you'll find that the rationale and the reason for the construction of the temple is stated very, very clearly of the temple in Jerusalem, that it was built as an house of rest for the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord. That's why the temple was built. Why in that period is a Jewish temple built on the island of Elephantine in Upper Egypt near the town of Aswan in the middle of the Nile? Why should this happen? What can explain it?
Could this be where the priests fleeing Manasseh's reign of terror had gone with the Ark of the Covenant? With Israel in defilement, they may have taken the Ark down the Nile River, seeking a safe place for it to rest.
So I began to realize that it might not have been a coincidence at all that a Jewish temple suddenly appeared way off in Egypt on the island of Elephantine. This temple is built, and further investigation showed that it had been built by priests fleeing the reign of Manasseh.
Ladies and gentlemen, approaching Cairo Airport. Kindly request to fasten the seatbelts. Thank you.
Well, then we traveled south into Egypt, to Aswan, where Elephantine Island is located on the Nile River. It's a very small island. It's not a large island. It was a trading post in ancient times with trade between Egypt and Ethiopia, and it was strategically located right on the border of Egypt and Ethiopia.
Something else I want y'all to notice. See how that man looked? How come he don't look like the Egyptians that they show you on TV on the news? See, you gotta pay attention to stuff, because we know that those people are actually Arabians. So the real Egyptians, you just got done seeing what they actually look like.
It's a very isolated island on the Nile River. They have right now a museum there. They have ancient ruins, and in these ancient ruins they say that they have found a temple that would have housed the Ark of the Covenant.
Elephantine is an island whose ruins have been a curiosity to archaeologists since the late 1800s. As Bob surveyed the island, it was clear that a significant culture dwelt here at one time. But was there a Jewish temple on this island? And could the Ark of the Covenant have come here? Bob was curious to know more and met with Dr. Atif Hanna, who has personally been involved in studying the archaeology of Elephantine for the last 20 years.
And he advised us that they had found writings that indicated that the Ark of the Covenant actually was there and rested in this temple.
A telling discovery was also made here: papyri and pottery shards used for ancient letter writing that had been passed between here and Jerusalem, asking for instructions on how to properly perform the blood sacrifice, a ceremony thought to be unthinkable outside of Jerusalem, and according to the book of Deuteronomy, against Hebrew law. If the Ark came here, could it still be hidden? If not, what forces drove it from here, and what happened to the Jewish temple and the Hebrew priests who once lived here?
It is again a well-attested historical fact that that temple was destroyed, burnt down in around 410 BC.
But why was this temple destroyed? And by whom? Kornuk examined further and noticed that the Jewish remains weren't the only remnants on Elephantine. After all, this island is deep in the Egyptian desert that once held the Jews in slavery. Hieroglyphs and Egyptian symbols of pagan idols alongside Hebrew worship symbols pointed to an inevitable conflict. Dr. Hanna pointed to ruins of a Jewish colony that had flourished here. There was a Jewish temple with the same dimensions as Solomon's temple in Jerusalem, and nearby a large number of homes. But these Hebrews were in close proximity to a large Egyptian temple, also on Elephantine.
And as we explored and researched on this island, we found inscribed on the granite blocks and on the old ancient walls these ram gods, these Egyptian ram gods, and we found that the rams were worshipped by the Egyptians. And there could have been great conflict with the Egyptians because the Egyptians worshipped the ram god and the Hebrews sacrificed the ram. This would have caused a conflict between the two groups, possibly resulting in the destruction of the temple and them leaving the island altogether.
Yeah, there are conflicts between the Jewish and Egyptian because the Jewish are sacrificed by ram and Egyptian are adoration or worship the ram.
Remember, we learned that before, right? Because that's why Moshe said he wanted to go out to the wilderness to do that, to offer up sacrifice to Yahweh. So we also learned that they had to have a great faith because they actually had to take the ram or the lamb, slaughter it, and put the blood over the doorpost.
There's no evidence that the Jewish community was massacred or murdered at Elephantine. What happens is they just vanish completely from history, and we never again learn as to what happened to them.
This conflict led to the temple being destroyed, and the Ark once again mysteriously disappears. Bob again spoke with Dr. Hanna and was surprised to learn what he believed happened.
The Ark of Covenant moved from Jerusalem at Manasseh Kings and come at Elephantine Island. The Ark of Covenant here, I think it will be remained for some times. Yes, for keeping at the Jewish temple. At the 3rd century before Christ, with some of Jewish community which be here, are moved to south to keep it, to Abyssinia or Ethiopia in the south. That the Ark of Covenant are still until now in that area. Really? Yeah.
They could not flee north through a hostile Egypt, so they fled south, following the Nile River system, down through the Sudan.
That is very special things for all the world. If it's that still until now, we hope Ethiopian tell us and published something about that. Two stones.
Dr. Hanna obviously took the powerful Ark of the Covenant very seriously.
Yes.
He knew it was nothing to be trifled
Yeah.
with.
I think it is a great secret. It is too much power. Too much power. Too much power.
So the Ark once again headed south, transported for safekeeping on the mighty Nile River.
And that Nile River system leads ultimately to one of the two sources of the Nile. One, of course, is in Uganda. The other source of the Nile, the Blue Nile, where most of the Nile's water comes from, is in Lake Tana in the highlands of Ethiopia.
This is the spectacular Blue Nile Falls. And directly above it is one of Africa's largest lakes, Lake Tana.
So Africa.
Because I also did extensive research work on Lake Tana. And this is where the pace of the investigation began to really speed up. And I found a most curious, remote island called Tana Kirkos.
Very difficult to get to this island, and in fact it takes a 3.5-hour boat ride across Lake Tana, which is about 90 miles across. It's one of the larger lakes in Africa. Tana Kirkos is considered by the Ethiopians to be a holy island.
This island is considered to be one of Ethiopia's most protected holy sites. Only about a mile long, this narrow island is covered with lush vegetation and surrounded by towering cliffs. Set in the middle of Lake Tana, it is completely restricted from visitors. Few were allowed to visit, and only men were welcome. Bob wondered what clues Tana Kirkos held and what he would find there.
Arrived at this island, we were met by these monks that were dressed in literally rags and had no shoes, and they lived as they did thousands of years ago. They ground their own corn, they lived in thatch huts, and we were like stepping back into time. When you come to the island, you live there for your entire life. They recruit from the villages around, and they get young boys that are worthy, and their parents bring them and offer them to live and worship at this holy place, Lake Tana.
These monks were a mystery. Shy and withdrawn, it was apparent they were uncomfortable with visitors. Is it possible they were once the Ark's caretakers? Did these holy men possess secrets about the Ark of the Covenant?
And the monks told me a very detailed variant tradition of the Ark of the Covenant story. But they said when the Ark was brought from Jerusalem to Ethiopia, it wasn't first brought to Axum. It was first brought to their island, to the island of Tana Kirkos, and it remained a cult object there for hundreds of years.
We have just arrived on Tana Kirkos Island. It is legend by the Ethiopians that the Ark of the Covenant rested here on this holy island, and that it was placed in a tent on this very rock ledge.
Could the Ark have rested on this rock surface overlooking Lake Tana for 800 years, as the monks have claimed? A unique altar of rocks still remained on the site. Covered by moss, this altar was visibly weathered and ancient. Carved into these rocks, there is a curious hollowed-out bowl. As Kornuk spent time with the monks, he seemed to gain their trust. He began to hear further stories from them about the Ark.
That they claimed that people came by the thousands around this island to worship the Ark of the Covenant, and the priest would dip the horse's tail into the blood from the granite blocks and then sprinkle it on the Ark and then on the people.
This blood was part of a traditional Jewish ceremony. The ancient bowl would hold the blood of the sacrificial animal killed for the atonement ceremony. This sacred site had never been visited by archaeologists, and as Bob surveyed the site, his investigative instincts took over. He began to dig.
That's a due south, exactly along the line.
With his team, Kornuk worked to measure and document the site. Then Kornuk discovered some holes carved deep into the rock.
We are told from the monks that the Ark of the Covenant rested on this very spot below my feet, and that it rested in a tent called the Tabernacle. And so we looked and we found evidence that there was actually a tent on this spot at one time. We found evidence of socket holes. You can see that they carved out of this stone the round hole that would have been the socket that holds the tent placements. And we found these in a north-south direction and an east-west direction. And we found one 13 feet this way, and we walked directly over in an east-west direction, and we found one right here 13 feet away from the other socket placement.
And we found that these socket holes fit roughly with what the description was given in the Bible for the size of the tabernacle.
If the tabernacle tent which housed the Ark of the Covenant actually rested on these rocks, this would be a startling and significant discovery. It would validate an historical route, bringing the Ark to Ethiopia. The monks then offered to show Bob some of their ancient relics. This beautiful old tapestry painting was impressive, but no one was prepared for what the monks brought out next.
The monks said that they had implements with them from Solomon's temple. I said, why would you still have these implements from Solomon's temple? Wouldn't they have gone to Axum with the Ark of the Covenant?
And they said to me, we were Jews at that time. Later, our community became Christians. Finally, the first Christian king of Ethiopia.
You heard that? So they telling you what's going on. Well, I be giving y'all these type of videos.
He came with his army from Axum to our island, and he stole the Ark of the Covenant from us, and he took it to Axum and he put it there.
So they did not need these items to be taken with them to Axum. They were actually abandoned and left with the monks on Tanakirkos.
Okay, the monks have brought this bronze, very corroded bowl out. They call this a gomer. They say that they put blood in this during the blood sacrifices, and that someone would stir it to keep the blood from coagulating. It was used in the blood sacrificial services. They tell me that this bowl came from Solomon's temple. If that's true, this would be the only known implement from Solomon's temple to exist in the world today that can be verifiable.
The monks brought out a pair of ancient meat forks and said they came from Solomon's temple with the Ark. The monks explained that these meat forks were used to put large pieces of meat on the fire in the burnt offering sacrifice. Each fork was topped with the budding almond symbol, one Bob had seen at other sites in Ethiopia.
And this stand is extremely old, very, very heavy. This gomer fits on the top of this stand like this. You can see it's bent from time and wear and just sheer fatigue. But they claim when they became Christian that they did not need these implements any longer because they were involving the blood sacrifice. So with Jesus Christ offering the blood of sacrifice, these were no longer needed in their ceremonies. So they were left with the monks.
Where did they get them? They had virtually no metal on the island and no ability to manufacture these items, and plus the items were extremely old in antiquity. So where did these implements come from? These monks said that I was the first one to be shown these implements, because if these ever proved to be articles that were from Solomon's temple, these photographs will be the only ones in existence to date. And I felt it was an extreme honor to be a part of this.
The obsession with finding the Ark of the Covenant has been around for centuries. In 1099 AD, a highly educated and rather mysterious sect took a special interest in finding and possessing it.
A very curious group of European knights at the time of the Crusades, the Knights Templar, who were called the Knights Templar because their headquarters was actually on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, had taken a very special interest in the Ark of the Covenant.
And it is believed that they searched for holy objects, that their quest was to find these objects that were very significant in Christian history. Obviously, they would have been searching for the Ark of the Covenant.
The background to their presence in Jerusalem is really rather a mysterious one. And it seems that they functioned somewhat like archaeologists in Jerusalem. They actually dug tunnels underneath the Temple Mount. They excavated the Temple Mount. They were looking for something.
And some attribute their knowledge and their building skills to building the Gothic churches that we find in France and throughout Europe today.
Now, in Chartres Cathedral in France, we find a very curious tableau on the north porch. We find an image of the Queen of Sheba set in an African context. There's an African figure at her feet, which seems to suggest a knowledge of the Ethiopian claim. And we find an image of the Ark of the Covenant on a pillar being led as though it were in the direction of the Queen of Sheba, and underneath an inscription saying, "Here is hidden the Ark of the Covenant." The curious thing is that at exactly the time that the Templars were in Jerusalem, an exiled Ethiopian prince was also in Jerusalem, and his name was Lalibela. And he rather miraculously retook his kingdom, went back to Ethiopia and became king of Ethiopia, and then built a group of the most amazing churches that exist anywhere on the face of the earth, carved out of solid rock in the highlands of Ethiopia at the city that now bears his name, Lalibela.
These monolithic stone churches are nothing short of amazing. Rising as a testament to great architecture and engineering, they are carved out of a mountain of solid granite.
When we arrived at Lalibela, it was one of the most amazing and mysterious places I have ever seen. How were these immense stone churches carved out of one piece of stone? It's a mystery even today.
Connecting these churches is a unique underground labyrinth of tunnels and narrow passageways with offset crypts, grottos, and galleries. This place is as ethereal as it is beautiful.
The characteristic form of architecture of Lalibela, these rock-hewn churches which are literally cut out of the solid rock, it creates an otherworldly feeling when you go there. And it's almost like stepping through a window back into a lost world where anything is possible. Anything is possible, even the presence of the Ark of the Covenant. You suddenly realize when you go to Lalibela that the Ethiopians are connected to the past in a way that we in the West can hardly even imagine today.
It is not uncommon to find monks here, lifting their prayers to God as they have for centuries.
How did Lalibela return after exile from all those years and immediately overthrow his brother that controlled the throne, and then immediately start building these stone churches in 1185?
I began to wonder whether there might have been some involvement of the Knights Templar in this story, particularly since there are traditions that white men were involved in the construction of those churches.
This pillar in the center of one of Lalibela's largest stone churches may contain the ancient secrets of Lalibela's construction. It is completely wrapped in a very old shroud of cloth. said to be hiding an ancient inscription written by King Lalibela himself. It most likely holds the key to how the churches were really constructed. Its secret inscriptions are said to record that the city was built in only 24 years by white men. But its cryptic writings are guarded carefully by temple priests. Even one of Konuk's crew was driven away by a temple priest and warned when he sought to touch it. What mystery could this pillar reveal?
The tales that are told about the construction of Lalibela, in my view, fit perfectly with the notion of a group of builders who come to Lalibela, who have very advanced building techniques at their disposal, and who apply those techniques to the construction of the churches. Later, it seems that the work has been done by angels or supernatural beings.
If the Crusaders and the sect of Knights Templar left Jerusalem to build Lalibela's great city, they would have left their remaining forces in Jerusalem vulnerable to attack.
Then we find that Crusaders were overrun by Muslim forces and had to leave the temple in Jerusalem. Was it that their forces were fragmented, that they all migrated to Ethiopia to build these churches, that they went there because Lalibela enticed them by saying, I have the Ark of the Covenant?
There's an enormous amount of circumstantial material which suggests that this rather secretive group of warrior knights may have been present in Ethiopia, may even have gone there to look for the Ark of the Covenant after their search in Jerusalem proved fruitless.
But we found inscribed all over these huge rock-hewn churches signs that the Knights Templar were there.
There are a number of Templar mementos around Lalibela. The repetition of the Templar cross, and you see this particularly in the Church of St. Mary at Lalibela. An image of Jerusalem is also found painted inside the same church with a Christian cross above the dome. There are many things to suggest that there was a curious, secretive foreign presence in Lalibela.
We're in the ancient stone church of St. Mary's, and above me is a very unusual symbol. It is the Star of David with a red cross in the middle. This red cross could possibly be from the Knights Templars that came here to carve these magnificent stone churches.
You see that? So you gotta be careful, because we already know that David had no star, right? But that just goes to show you that it could be true that these Templars came there, because you see crosses all over, and now you see the Star of Rembrandt right in front of your eye, right? These people didn't know nothing about this type of stuff until they was made Christian. They just got there telling you that.
This ancient stone wall here has an interesting painting on it. It looks like this is a sword, European in style. It'd be very interesting to find out exactly what this could be dated to. And up above here we have what appear to be white men coming with a white cross on a signa. And it'd be interesting to find out exactly what that symbolizes also. These are the ancient rock-hewn churches of Lalibela, believed to have been carved at the end of the 11th century. And this symbol up here symbolizes the second Jerusalem according to the Ethiopians. And if this is true, it's very interesting, because this could be the place that they carved out of stone to house the Ark of the Covenant.
Well, the city is a sort of replica or model of the Holy Land of Israel. It has a river Jordan running through it.
They have a Golgotha, the Mount of Olives. All these indications that this is a second Jerusalem, the second location of where the Ark of the Covenant should be housed.
It's dedicated to representing the Holy City there in Ethiopia.
In this stone cavern, we find these bones. We're told that they're 800 years old and that they're Egyptian. We're told that they came here seeking the second Jerusalem. The big question is, why did they come to this ancient city of Lalibela?
right in front of us was this immense moat that protected this stone church that rose from this foundation. And we realized then that it was probably an immense, elaborate system of protection to protect whatever it would be inside these churches. And as we left the amazing city of Lalibela, we thought it didn't appear that the Ark of the Covenant ever made it there at all.
Suddenly, all the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle fit together. We have strong evidence that the Ark is gone from Jerusalem before the Babylonian invasion. We have a Jewish temple built hundreds of miles to the south on the island of Elephantine in Egypt with the same dimensions as Solomon's temple. 200 years later, that temple is destroyed, and at more or less exactly the same time, we start hearing of a tradition of the Ark of the Covenant in Ethiopia and on this island of Tana Kirkos on Lake Tana. And the monks there saying that they had the Ark of the Covenant on their island for 800 years before the Ethiopian Christian king came and took it to Axum is the final piece of the puzzle.
So Kornuk made his way back to Axum, Ethiopia, to visit the complex where the Ark of the Covenant is said to be housed today. Bob met with the senior monks, who explained.
When I met the chief priests and the deacons in Axum, I formed a relationship, and we started a dialogue, and then I started to visit them daily. And
of the Ark of the Covenant, the last resting of the Ark of the Covenant is in Axum.
This is the building the Ethiopians say is the final resting place of the Holy Ark of the Covenant. A small building. This tiny sanctuary chapel is the very center of spiritual life in Ethiopia. Worshippers gather around the building to pray, knowing that they can never set their eyes on its holy contents, because they believe they will be struck dead by God's holy presence.
The structure was surrounded by a fence, a high metal fence with pointed tips to keep people from going inside, and it seems as if they want to protect this object for a long time. At one time, Axum was a mighty kingdom. It was the capital of a great kingdom, and we can see the monuments there today that are just lying about as testimony to this great civilization.
This enormous rock-hewn pillar, or stele, was once the largest piece of rock ever quarried on Earth. It is part of the ruins of Old Axum, which testify to the powerful dynasty and civilization that once was the Axumite Empire. Nearby, Kornuk examined the foundation ruins of an old temple. Built in the 4th century at the conversion of the Axumite kingdom to Christianity, it was the original church structure said to have housed the Ark of the Covenant. 1,200 years later, in 1535, it was razed to the ground by the fanatical Muslim invader Ahmed Gragn, and the Ark had to be removed and hidden to keep it safe.
Finding these pottery shards here that are in this ancient footing and foundation stones of the original sanctuary, where it's believed that the Ark of the Covenant rested 1,600 years ago when it was brought here by King Ezana.
Kornuk began his search and investigation of Axum and the surrounding areas. His first stop was a ruin with a recently discovered ancient stone monument, retelling Axum's great history as a powerful dynasty. Kornuk descended the steps into the underground palace and treasury of Emperor Kalib, a powerful Christian ruler who ruled from 514 to 542 AD. Christianity had come to Axum.
This is King Kalib's palace, so we know that Christianity had an influence at least 600 AD.
Evidence was everywhere of an ancient Christian presence. These walls were decorated with small crosses, further testifying to Axum's strong Christian heritage. Bob wondered if these ancient Christian believers could have possessed the Ark even back then. One eyewitness account by a 13th century Armenian geographer, Abu Salih, spoke of the Ark being carried in Aksum by men who were, quote, white and red in complexion with red hair. Could they have been the Knights Templar who also carved these crosses? Bob had heard of a unique carving not far out of town, a carving of a lion and with it a Templar cross. This possibly carved by the mysterious knights themselves. Bob wanted to see for himself. This lion had a very distinct European design, and the neighboring cross was certainly a Templar cross. There had been a strong Christian presence all through this region.
I had a chance to meet with the deacons at the church and some of the monks and the elders at the church. And we spent a long time talking about the Ark being there. They are totally convinced that the real Ark of the Covenant is in the chapel in Aksum.
Kornuk knew it was a distinct honor to meet this council. They controlled the destiny of the Ark of the Covenant. And after hearing of Kornuk's discovery of Mount Sinai, they invited him to meet with them to discuss their claim and their plans for the future. There was one question, however, that Bob had to have answered.
Are they ever planning to reveal the Ark to the world, or will it remain hidden forever?
This question initiated a reluctant discussion by the committee. After a moment of deliberation, the head priest's answer was very clear and absolute.
So the Ark of the Covenant will be hidden in St. Mary's forever. It will stay here and be guarded.
Cannot be given order or given answer by this committee about the Ark of the Covenant. We will wait as it is. We are not able to change anything from what had been before.
The power of tradition in Ethiopia is very strong, and if a place, a particular part of a church, has been roped off and obscured from the eyes of ordinary people for hundreds of years, you can be certain that it's going to continue to be obscured from people's eyes for hundreds of years to come. This is a matter on which the Ethiopians are extremely firm and extremely strict. There's only one man who's allowed to see the Ark of the Covenant, and he is the monk who is appointed as the guardian of the Ark, and they see him as a direct line descendant of the high priest of Jerusalem.
The unique opportunity we had was that we were invited to have a meeting with the guardian of the Ark, and he led us to the gates, and the guardian walked forward and talked to us.
The guardian, the 30th in Aksum's history, is the only man in the world allowed to set his eyes on the Ark of the Covenant. Chosen for his absolute purity, his priestly duty is to protect and care for this holy object. Within the confines of this fence, he will spend the rest of his life as the Ark's guardian. He can never leave.
They're not trying to sell themselves as the owners of the Ark of the Covenant to anybody. They don't care if the outside world believes them or not. It's a matter of supreme indifference to them. They know that they have the Ark of the Covenant. They don't need to persuade anybody. There's a calm dignity and surety about these people.
And I was told by one of the priests, who I become friends with, Barani Maskal, he told me that there was an old man who was a chief priest in the area for 50 years, that he actually, on 2 occasions, was allowed into the temple, and his eyes looked upon what he he says is the Ark of the Covenant. And we visited this old man at his house, believed to be over 100 years old. This is Kashe Jeves. He was the chief priest here in Axum for many, many years, and considered to be the leading scholar about the Ark of the Covenant here in Axum. Has he ever seen the Ark of the Covenant in St. Mary's of Zion Church?
ንሶም ኣብ ስልጣን ኣብ ዝነበሩሉ ግዜ ይኹን ኣብ ኣክሱም ኣብ ዝነበሩሉ ይኹን ይፈልጡ እዮም እዩ ዝብል Yes.
Yes, he has.
He has.
Could he show me in size what he believes the Ark of the Covenant, how long it was and how tall it was?
ቁመቱ ክንደይ ይኸውን እዩ ዝብል It is rectangular shape.
It's
but
rectangular.
The length is this one.
It's the length
from his,
is this one.
From his,
so it's this long?
This, yeah, like this shape. This
like this?
Yeah.
He is saying that the Ark...
Bob was confused. The Ark was described as no larger than a book, not fitting the biblical description at all. But through further discussion, a semantic discrepancy became evident. To the Ethiopians, the Ark of the Covenant is the tablets of the Ten Commandments, and the gold box is only their container.
And is the container made of gold?
Yes, of course.
And what is on top of this gold container?
Yeah. Only in the box there is some shape of angels.
On top of the box there is some type of angels?
Yeah.
And are the angels made of gold?
Yeah, it's gold.
The angels are made of gold?
Yeah.
So you're talking about the Ark of the Covenant is the Ten Commandments according to your traditions and legend.
Yeah.
And these Ten Commandments are the Ark of the Covenant, but they're contained in a bigger gold box with angels on the top of it?
Yes, yes.
And he has seen this big gold box?
All he's seen it, everything.
He has seen everything?
Yeah. And it is afraid of it.
He is afraid of it?
Yeah, afraid of it. When he become near, he become shaking. And it is changeable when you look at it.
It changes when he looks at it, and when he looked at it, he was
Your
shaking.
eyes like this,
he was
like
afraid.
Like
it was like a mirror?
Yeah, changeable.
It changes.
Yeah, he said.
Monks claimed that they possessed more than just the Ark of the Covenant. With the Ark came other implements for worship from Solomon's temple. The monks agreed to show these items and remove them from the temple treasury. This crown was said to be worn by the chief musician, one of 3 musicians who traveled in procession with the Ark.
And then these monks entered the temple treasury and they brought out these hammered silver trumpets, very long trumpets and very ancient trumpets. And we see that in Scripture that it says in Numbers 10, verse 1, the Lord said to Moses, make 2 trumpets of hammered silver and use them for calling the community together and for having the camp set out.
These discoveries seemed remarkable. But were these trumpets really relics from Old Testament times? Could they be identified as trumpets from Solomon's temple in ancient Israel? An important clue sits nearly 3,000 miles away in Rome, an arch dedicated to the Roman Emperor Titus. In this parade of victory, trumpets are seen, and they are clearly from ancient Israel.
When Titus sacked Jerusalem, he brought these trumpets back and paraded them through the streets of Rome. And a contemporary, an eyewitness that actually saw the trumpets, chiseled these trumpets on the archway in Rome at the Ark of Titus. And these trumpets seem to match perfectly with the trumpets that were brought from the treasury at St. Mary's of Zion.
Let's suppose that there is some firm independent corroboration that the Ark of the Covenant is actually in Ethiopia. What the effects of such a corroboration outside Ethiopia may be remains to be seen.
We can only speculate what the response would be to the discovery of the Ark of the Covenant outside of Israel. I believe that the population at large within Israel, whether religious or non-religious, would consider that to be clearly their property.
Hidden away, out of sight of the world, in the highlands of Ethiopia may just be the best possible place on earth for this object to be. We live in very volatile and troubled times. A return of the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem at the moment would have explosive political and religious implications, which could ultimately lead to an attempt to build another temple in Jerusalem, and there are people who would like to do that.
If somehow the Ark of the Covenant were ever to emerge, it would be a tremendous impetus for the construction of the third temple in Jerusalem. That, I think, is the most significant aspect of the Ark of the Covenant. Not saying that that somehow would overcome the fact that the Temple Mount is occupied by 2 mosques of Islam, but it would be a tremendous impetus for the construction of the third temple in Jerusalem.
Everybody has a plan for another temple. We have to know how people can come together and work out hostility and anger and misunderstanding and learn how to live together so that a temple can be built.
Such an event would cause chaos in the Middle East if it were to happen. So maybe it's a good thing for the world, just the best thing that could possibly be, if the Ark of the Covenant stays where the Ethiopians say it is, within their control, and there, as they always tell us, by the will of God. Maybe they're right.
The Ark of the Covenant was God's sign and seal of his very presence on the earth. The 10 Commandments contained in the Ark are said to be written by the finger of God himself, and their words challenge us to this very day. Over the years, many have sought to possess the Ark of the Covenant's power, but few have been willing to live by its law. One thing is clear. The Ark of the Covenant's awesome power will remain God's, and God's alone.
It was an amazing journey for me to travel throughout Ethiopia, and for me to think that I was standing just a few feet away from where the Ark of the Covenant may rest today was simply awesome and amazing. But the Bible says that God no longer dwells in temples made by men's hands, but in the hearts of those that would believe in him and trust him. For me, that's the greatest discovery of all.
All right, let's go further. All right, let's see. All right, so I just wanted y'all to see that, just to see some of the places they was going. This guy right here, he's a real good explorer. You see that he's sincere about what he's trying to do, right? He doesn't hide anything. He has a lot of good videos, and that's what he does. He travels the world and tries to, find out these different mysteries, right? But we're gonna go a little further. Let me see something. Hold on a minute. Let's look at this here. Let's go. Everybody okay? Everybody still here?
Yep.
All right. Let's do this here. Hold on a second. Okay. Let's go to Trey. Go to Revelation 11 and 19.
Revelations 11, verse 19. And the temple of Elohim was open in Shemayim, and there was seen in his temple the ark of his testament or covenant. And there were lightnings and voices and thunderings and an earthquake and great hail.
Right, and we go to it's telling you that the ark is there. When we go to the book of Baruch, I made a mistake. It's saying that, let's go, I'll read it to you. Let me see if I can find it. It's telling you that the ark was swallowed. See, in the book of Baruch, it says that the ark was swallowed by the earth, right? During the when the Chaldeans had came to sack Jerusalem. So this is, like I say, I'd rather go by what the scriptures say, but I want to read this to you just so you know. Let's see. It's the book of Baruch, the book of Apocalypse of Baruch. And it's, I think it's chapter, let me see. It's second Baruch, and it's like the 5th chapter. Let's see. No, it's the 6th chapter. And the invasion of the Chaldeans and their entrance into the city after the sacred vessels was hidden and the city walls overthrown by messengers. And it came to pass on the morrow that, lo, the army of the Chaldees surrounded the city. And at that time of the evening, I, Baruch, left the people, and I went forth and stood by the oak. And I was grieving over Zion and lamenting over the captivity which had come upon the people. And lo, suddenly a strong spirit raised me and bore me aloft over the wall of Jerusalem. And I beheld, and lo, 4 messengers standing at the 4 corners of the city, each of them holding a torch of fire in his hand. And another messenger began to descend from the Shamaim and said unto them, hold your lamps and do not light them until I tell you, for I am first sent to speak a word to the earth and to place in it what Yahuwah the Most High has commanded. And I saw him descend into the Holy of Holies and take from there the veil and the holy ark and the mercy seat and the 2 tablets and the holy raiment of the priest and the altar of incense and the 48 precious stones, wherewith the priest was ordained and all the holy vessels of the tabernacle. And he spoke to the earth with a loud voice, earth, earth, hear the word of the mighty Elohim and receive what I commit to you. And guard them until the last time, so that when you are ordered, you may restore them, so that strangers may not get possession of them. For the time comes when Jerusalem also will be delivered for a time, until it is said that it is again restored forever. The earth opened his mouth and swallowed them up. So, I mean, you know, again, this is a apocryphal type of book. So, I mean, you know, so it's honestly, I just rather go by what the scriptures say, because we know that a man can't, it's no man possible that could have that ark in possession. They couldn't look at it, they couldn't do none of that. That's impossible. Otherwise, then the scripture is not right. And see, and so again, you notice when every Jerusalem got sacked, but it was gone, right? That's the only, they couldn't find that. We know when Alexander the Great came, he didn't touch anything in the temple. So it just is what it is. But we know that the kingdom and the tabernacle is going to be on the earth, right? Let's keep looking at this. Okay, I need everybody go on mute, please. So we know this. It's not a this is not a mystery. 1 Chronicles 17, 10 through 14. And we're going to show you something else today too. I don't know what this is here. I don't know why it's this new thing that they did. It's hard for people to get in, and then I got to figure this out. 1 Chronicles 17, 10 through 14. Even from the day that I commanded judges to be over my people Israel, I will subdue all your enemies. Moreover, I tell you that Yahuwah will build a house for you. When your days are that you must go to be with your fathers, that I will set up one of your descendants after you, who will be of your sons, and I will establish his kingdom. He shall build for me a house, and I will establish his throne. Luke 1, 32 through 33 says, he will be great and will be called the Son of the Most High. And Yahuwah Elohim will give him the throne of his father David, and he will reign over the house of Jacob forever, and his kingdom will have no end. So we know this is the Mashiach. A lot of people say, well, that got to be Solomon. Nah, let's talk about the Mashiach. Isaiah 2, 1 through 4, the word which Isaiah the son of Amos saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. Now it will come about that in the last days, the mountain of the house of Yahuwah will be established as the chief of the mountains, and will be raised above the hills, and all the nations will stream to it. And many peoples will come and say, come, let us go up to the mountain of Yahuwah. So it's going to be all kind of people now, to the house of Elohim of Jacob, that he may teach us concerning his ways, and that we may walk in his paths. For the law will go forth from Zion, and the word of Yahuwah from Jerusalem. So we see the commandments ain't going nowhere. The prophet is telling you that when the kingdom comes, right? The commandments is going to be here. Let's keep moving. Isaiah 9:6-7. For a child will be born to us, a son will be given to us, and the government will rest on his shoulders, and his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty Elohim, Eternal Father, Prince of Peace. Eternal Father, Prince of Peace. There will be no end to the increase of his government or of peace on the throne of David and over his kingdom, to establish it and to uphold it with justice and righteousness from then on and forevermore. The zeal of Yahuwah of Sabaoth will accomplish this. All right? Isaiah 16:5, a throne will be given, a throne will even be established in loving kindness, and a judge will sit on it in faithfulness in the tent of David. Moreover, he will seek justice and be prompt in righteousness. It's just steady telling you, steady pointing you toward, Isaiah 24:23, the moon will be ashamed and the sun ashamed, for Yahuwah Sabaoth will reign on Mount Zion in Jerusalem, and his glory will be before his elders. Trey, let's go to Jeremiah 33. I'm trying to show you something. Yeah, I'm trying to show you that this is another thing we're looking at here. You're not flying away to heaven. The kingdom gonna be on this earth. That's why I put this picture up here, because the tabernacle, the Father's kingdom, is gonna come down to the earth. So if you in heaven, then why would it don't make no sense? This is what we've been taught all these years. Jeremiah 33, started verse 17 down to 26, Trey.
Jeremiah 33, verse 17 through 26. For thus said Yahuwah, David shall never want a man to sit upon the throne of the house of Israel.
Right, so we see that it's a whole lot of stuff going on here. So folks ain't supposed to be back in Jerusalem right now. And I mean, if the Israelites if Israel was back, then where's his throne at? There's a lot of things that has to happen because Israel gonna fight to take it back. They can't just show up and be there. See, go ahead, Trey.
All right. Verse 18. Neither shall the priests, the Levites, want a man before me to offer burnt offerings and to kindle meat offerings and to do sacrifice continually.
See, so even in the new in the new kingdom, right, during the millennium, it's going to be sacrifice going on. Like I told y'all before, you have different scholars saying that was added in the book of Ezekiel. But what is the Most High telling you right here? He's telling you that these things is not going to stop. Go ahead, son.
All right. And the word of Yahuwah came unto Jeremiah, saying, Thus said Yahuwah, if you can break my agreement or covenant of the day and my covenant of the night, and that there should not be day and night in their season, then may also my covenant be broken with David, my servant, that he should not have a son to reign upon his throne, and with the Levites, the priests, my ministers. As the host of the Shemayim cannot be numbered, neither the sand of the sea measured, so will I multiply the seed of David, my servant, and the Levites that minister unto me.
And it's just that simple. And I mean, you go outside, it's daytime, the sun's shining. You go at night, the moon is out there. But I'm gonna show you something. Keep going, man. Go ahead, keep reading.
Moreover, the word of Yahuwah came to Jeremiah, saying, Consider this, not what this people may have spoken, saying, the two families which Yahuwah has chosen, he has even cast them off. Thus they have despised my people, that they should be no more a nation before them.
Right, because we know right now when you go to church, they're telling you that what happened. The Jews was cast, they said that the Hebrews was cast away. That that now it's the Christian church. Right? Why they steady going around making people Christians, like we just saw on these and they all up in Ethiopia. The man said we used to be Jews before. Now we're Christians. Go ahead, Trey.
All right. Thus said Yahuwah, if my be not day and night, and if I have appointed the ordinances of the Shemayim and earth, then will I cast away the son of Jacob and David my servant, so that I will not take any of his seed to be rulers over the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
All right. And we know that's not going to happen because guess what? The Mashiach is from the seed of David. Go ahead, man.
For I will cause the captivity to return and have mercy on them.
And that's what he's going to do. And we're going to show you how he's going to do that. But you ain't flying away nowhere. Let's go. Now let's look at this here. Let's go to Daniel 7:27. Yeah, I had to put this in it because we're still dealing with the temple. All this stuff needs to be known. But they got us flying off somewhere, and he's supposed to come rapture, and that's one of the biggest lies ever been told. That's got you froze. So you ain't. I mean, these strangers, man, they've done a lot of damage to a lot of people around the world, not just us. But they got, especially in the West, man, it's sad. Go ahead, Trey. Daniel 7:27.
Daniel chapter 7, 27. And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole Shemayim.
Wait a minute, under what?
Under the whole Shemayim.
Wait a minute, but I thought we supposed to fly away and be with the Lord forevermore. It's telling you right here the kingdom and the dominance and the greatness thereof is going to be under the whole heaven. The whole heaven. Why would he say that? Because we know it's more than one heaven. See? And shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, not just Israel, the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. Didn't we just read that they're going to be flowing to the mountain? All peoples? So, I mean, come on now. This is just, but see, some of us don't know this because we haven't been taught this. Real simple stuff, if you know what you're looking for, and if somebody's trying to teach you. So this is just another thing that has to be washed out of the people's mind. These songs about heaven and all this, man, come on. You ain't going nowhere. Zechariah chapter 14, Trey. Kingdom gonna be right here on this earth. This tabernacle gonna be on this earth too. Just that simple. I mean, this is what our Creator is telling us. So who I'm gonna believe? Zechariah chapter 14, Trey.
Zechariah chapter verse 1. The day of Yahuwah, and they shall spoil. And they spoil shall be divided in the midst of you, or your spoil shall be divided in the.
Okay, you're going in and out. I'll take this one, Trey. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All right. And your spoil shall be divided in the midst of you. For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem in battle, and the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, and the women ravished, and half of the city shall go forth into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city. Then shall Yahuwah go forth and fight against those nations, as when he fought in the day of battle.
Okay, I don't know. Wait a minute, hold on. Everybody needs to be on mute except Trey now. Because we recording. Go ahead, Trey.
All right, can you hear me, Killer?
Yeah.
All right. Then shall Yahuwah go forth and fight against those nations, as when he fought in the day of battle. And his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives.
Wait a minute, what? I thought he gonna snatch you up and be up in the air with him. His feet coming back to the Mount of Olives. That's what he coming back to. Oh, maybe he's just gonna leave you up there. I heard another guy say he's gonna leave us floating there and he's gonna come to the earth and do battle. Can't read that to me. I can't believe it. Go ahead, Trey.
All right. in the middle of verse 4, which is before Jerusalem on the east, and the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof toward the east, or in the midst toward the east and toward the west. And there shall be a very great valley, and half of the mountain shall remove toward the north, and half of it toward the south. And you shall flee to the valley of the mountains, for the valley of the mountains shall reach unto Azal. Yeah, you shall flee, like as you fled before the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, king of Judah. And Yahuwah, my Elohim, shall come, and all the saints with you.
Wait a minute, what? Wait a minute, what? Oh, so when he come, he already told you about it. We just got them reading Daniel 7:27. He gonna bring the saints with him. So how could you be floating around up in the up, and when he comes here and you still floating in the air? No, you coming with him right back down to this earth to do what? To fight. Go ahead, Trey. You finna take this world back from Hasatan. That's what this whole thing, the day of Yahuwah, is all about. Destruction, carnage. So folks running over, I gotta go to Israel. Well, go ahead. I ain't going over there. Go ahead, Trey.
All right. And it shall come to pass in that day that the light shall not be clear nor dark, but it shall be one day which shall be known to Yahuwah, not day, but it shall come to pass that at the evening time it shall be light.
Go ahead.
And it shall be that living water shall go out from Jerusalem, half of them toward the former sea, and half of them toward the other sea. In summer and in winter it shall be.
Go ahead.
And Yahuwah shall be king over all the earth, and that day shall be one Yahuwah, and his name one.
Jump down to verse 11.
Verse 11. And men shall dwell in it, and there shall be no more utter destruction, but Jerusalem shall be safely inhabited.
Is they over there dwelling safely now? No, they running around killing folks over there. They blowing up stuff, shooting bombs and tanks and all this stuff. Keep reading.
All right. Verse 12. It shall be the plague wherewith Yahuwah will smite all the people that have fallen.
Okay, you're going out again, Trey. Can you hear me? Okay, I'll take over. And men shall dwell in it, and there shall be no more other destruction, but Jerusalem shall be safely inhabited. And this shall be the plague wherein Yahuwah will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem, and the flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes. Their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. And it shall come to pass in that day that a great tumult from Yahuwah shall be among them. So they fighting, and they shall lay hold everyone on the hand of his neighbor, and his hand shall rise up against the hand of his neighbor. And Judah also shall fight at Jerusalem. And the wealth of all the heathen round about shall be gathered together, gold, silver, and apparel in great abundance. Didn't he just do that? He just did that when he come out of Egypt. This Elohim don't never change, y'all. He never changes. So now y'all can read the rest of this on your own for time's sake, but we're gonna move on. Now let's look at this here. Come on now. Now, this is what's gonna happen to you. This is what you gotta understand. Because they keep telling you that you're gonna fly away and then you're not gonna be ready. You're not taking this thing serious enough to be ready. And this is what they're trying to do when these dispensationalists is giving you this foolishness. Trey, are you back?
Yeah.
Let's go to Revelation chapter 13. I'm gonna show y'all what's gonna happen. This is some of the stuff that's gonna be going down. It ain't but one place for you to go. And we're gonna show you that too. But you ain't flying away nowhere. Revelation chapter 13 and 7, Trey.
Revelation 13, verse 7. And when it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them, and power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations.
Right. So this is coming. Let's go to 17 because it's gonna be well, you want to keep these now. The ones that don't keep the commandments, it's gonna be real simple. You're gonna fall in line with the dispensationalist. Next thing you know, you're gonna have a mark on it. It's just that simple. But for those that's trying to walk in the path, the straight path, there's gonna be some problems. And they're already tripping about over in Europe with these 10 commandments and stuff. They're already locking people up and they're gonna switch this day and switch that day. Revelation chapter 17-6, Trey.
Revelation 17, verse 6. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Yahushua. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration.
Yeah, because guess what? She drinking the blood of the saints that she done killed. See, everybody else had to pay a price to prove that they really love Yah. So it's gonna be some blood. It's gonna be some martyrs. Revelation chapter 6, Trey, 9 through 11.
Revelation 6, verses 9 through 11. And when he opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of Yahuwah, for those that were killed, and for the testimony which they held.
The testimony that they held, because they held on to the testimony. They say to the law and to the testimony, if they ain't coming with both, there ain't no light in them. So they hold on to the testimony of Yahuwah. By now, we should know what that is. So they got killed for that. And they say they flew away nowhere. I mean, so where's the ones that's supposed to fly away? How come they ain't, how come it didn't even mention them? Well, these are the ones that caught up in the rapture. It didn't mention that. It said these are the ones that got slaughtered. Revelation chapter 20-4, Trey. You still there, Trey?
Revelation chapter 20 and verse 4.
Yes, sir.
And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for
Wait a minute, what? The souls of them that was what?
Beheaded.
Keep going.
For the witness of Yahushua and for the word of Yahuwah.
Just that simple. Now let's go look at something else in Daniel, because I want to take you to the back of the last book, so there can't be no tricks, and there can't nobody say, well, see, that's the Old Testament. No. This is, the Revelation is telling you what's going to happen. Daniel 11, Trey, chapter 30, verse 31 through 35. See, we got to understand, if the Mashiach and the prophets, even the greatest prophet, John the Baptist, paid the price, how can we escape? He got his head chopped off. That was like a foreshadow of what's going to happen later. Daniel 11, verse 31 through 35. Trey, go ahead and read.
Daniel chapter, verse 31. And arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that makes desolate.
Right. So y'all running around looking at this, talking about this temple over there. They got us believing that. Well, you know, when the Jewish people build the third temple, man, you better understand what these prophets, why you got to get in these prophets. You don't need to be over there fooling around with no third temple. We already told you, we already showed you in scripture what the next thing gonna happen. The next tabernacle. Go ahead, keep reading, Trey.
And such do wickedly against the covenant shall they corrupt by flatteries. But the people that know their Elohim shall be strong and do exploit.
Right, because they telling you right now, you ain't got to worry about keeping. No, man, that's you ain't got to do that no more. But they said the people that know their Elohim, the very elect. You can't trick me, partner. So go ahead and kill me if that's what it got to be. Go ahead, Trey.
And they that on the people of many, they shall fall by the sword, and by flame, by captivity, and by spoil many days.
So now he done tricked the race. He said flattery, so he done tricked some of the people out of following the truth. Now they gonna set you on fire. They gonna be doing all kinds of stuff to you. You better make sure that this is what you really want to do. But it ain't just no happy flying away thing. You see, it's getting bad right now. It's crazy. Every day is something more and more wicked is happening on this earth. It's unbelievable, but it is believable because we know what the word says. What verse you at, Trey?
I'm at verse.
Go ahead.
Now, when they shall be hoping of little help, but many shall cleave to them with flatteries.
Many gonna follow these devils with these Masonic rings on, telling you, man, you ain't gotta do this no more. You ain't gotta do that no more. Okay, man, don't do it. Don't do it. All right, let's go further. Y'all gotta understand this thing, man. Hey, you just ain't gonna, like people say they think they just gonna run to the wilderness. You're gonna have to prove this. Hosea 2:14. Therefore, behold, I will allure her and bring her into the wilderness. Let's go to Hosea chapter 2 and start at verse 14, Trey. But we know if we go to Revelation, it says that the serpent or the dragon was after this woman. Didn't it say that? And then he opened his mouth and a great flood came out. But she was taken and hidden. Right? So who is this woman? Hosea chapter 2, start at verse 14, Trey.
Therefore, behold, I will allure her and bring her to the wilderness and speak comfortably unto her.
Right. So some of us, he's gonna lure out there to the wilderness. And he's gonna speak comfortably to this woman, who we already know is Israel, and everybody that clings to Israel. Just that simple. Go ahead, because it's like it was a mixed multitude that came out of Egypt. There's gonna be a mixed multitude out there too. So it ain't just, get that out your mind. It ain't gonna just be us that's gonna be all kind of, he said the saints. Because right now we're supposed to be spiritual Israel, not because you black. Has nothing to do with it. Go ahead, Trey.
All right, verse 15. And I will give her vine,
Go ahead.
and I will give her vine, and the valley of Achor for a door of hope, and she shall.
A door of hope. Because after all this craziness, you're gonna be ready to go ahead, Trey.
And she was there, as in the days of her youth, and as in the day when she came up out of the land of Egypt.
Right, go ahead. It's gonna be the same thing. He don't change. He does not change. So we gotta stop letting these people trick us with this foolishness, with these flattering words. He just told us that. Go ahead, Trey.
And it shall be that day, said Yahuwah, that you shall call me Ish, and shall call me no more Ba'ali.
Right, so you ain't calling me, you're gonna call me husband. You ain't calling me no more by Baal, which we know is Lord. The Lord said this, the Lord said, no, you ain't gonna say that no more. Because he's gonna bring you out there, he's gonna lure you out there, he's gonna speak to you comfortably. Because what he's trying to do now, he's trying to go ahead and bring this covenant back together. Because I want you to be my wife. Because you done came through all this stuff. You done proved yourself. Right? And then even out there, we got a lesson we're gonna put together on this. You get out there and you start tripping, listening to them flattering words. You're gonna get killed on the spot then. Go ahead, Trey.
For I will take the fall out of her mouth, and they shall no more be remembered by their name.
Right. So they all this foolishness is coming. All these Lord God, Allah, Krishna, all these things that everybody, you ain't gonna be out there talking about that. You're gonna be talking about my husband. See, that's what it is. That's what it's gonna be. But that's if you can get up there, because you might get killed first. We can go other places, show where they're gonna put you in jail. We already showed you they're gonna be setting you on fire. See, but all this flying away stuff, nah. Everything gonna be right here, baby. Please believe that. Revelation 21:2, I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of the Shamayim from Ab Yahuwah the Father, prepared as a bride beautifully dressed for her husband. So, I mean, so I just had to put that in there because we got to understand this stuff. We got to understand this stuff. This flying away stuff, that's nothing but craziness. The tabernacle will be with men. John chapter 1:14, Trey. The tabernacle gonna be right here on the earth with the saints, because he's been trying to put this together from the Garden of Eden, then to the tabernacle, and then Solomon's temple, and then Herod just came and just added all kind of stuff in it because there was no court of the Gentiles, there was no court of the women. That's some stuff that they did. See, because we've been showing you all along that these people hate if you're not, with the Jewish people, if you are not one of them, they do not want you around them. They won't eat none of your food, none of that. But we know from the very beginning it was a mixed multitude. And then I'm thinking, what is that, John? Where does that say that, wife, where it says that blessed are the meek?
Matthew 5:5.
Because they so that way, because why? Because
it says they shall inherit the earth.
They shall inherit the earth. The Mashiach is telling you this in spirit form and when he came in the flesh. So if you want to fly away, go ahead and fly away. You're just gonna be out there floating, I guess, because everybody else we gonna be on the earth. John chapter 1:14, Trey.
If you look at this one. Right.
Go ahead, Trey.
Chapter 1, verse 14. And the word was made flesh and dwelt among us.
Right. So the word was made flesh and dwelled, which is the Hebrew word mishkan, 4908, dwelling, dwelleth, place, habitation, tabernacle, tent. Right? And if we go to the Greek, it's G4637, dwell to fix one tabernacle, to abide in a tent. See? Now, Trey, switch over to Zechariah chapter 8. I want to show y'all something else. I'm just trying to give y'all all the proof that, that way, when you start talking to folks, you can go ahead and get them off you real quick. Zechariah chapter 8, Trey. Read verse 1 and verse from 1 to 3.
Zechariah verse 1.
Zechariah chapter 8, verse 1 through 3.
Yeah, Zechariah 3. Again, the word of Yahuwah, excuse me. Again, the word of Yahuwah, the Elohim of hosts, came to me saying,
okay, you got a bad connection. You got a bad connection, man, because you kind of floating in and out. Let me get this one real quick. Again, the word of Yahuwah of hosts came to me saying, or of Yahuwah of Sabaoth. Thus says Yahuwah of Sabaoth, I was jealous for Zion and with great jealousy, and I was jealous for her with great fury. Thus says Yahuwah, I am returned into Zion and will dwell in the midst of Jerusalem. And Jerusalem shall be called a city of truth. Why? Because they do the commandments is there. And the mountain of Yahuwah hosts, the holy mountain. We're telling you all over these prophets that it's going to be right here. See, but that's the whole thing. We've been trained to stay out. Oh, you don't need the prophets. That's the whole part of the book. Yeah, because I know you a devil, because you're trying to keep me from seeing that you a devil. 1 Timothy chapter 3 and 16, Trey. All you got to do is search this book. There ain't no mysteries in this. The mysteries is to those that don't have the understanding. That's the mystery. Ain't no mystery. Next time somebody come around you some flattering words, go ahead and straighten that out real quick. You need to mark these things in your book, on your tablet, or however. 1 Timothy 3:16. Go ahead and read, Trey.
1 Timothy in verse 6. Without controversy, great is the mystery of righteousness or godliness. Elohim was manifest in the flesh, justified in the spirit, seen of angels, preached unto Gentiles, believed on in the world, received up into glory.
All right. And then we know even when the apostles asked him, when is you going to restore the kingdom of Israel again? I mean, it's right there. So we just got to pay attention to what we read. Because even they knew that the kingdom was going to be on earth. Ezekiel chapter 41, Trey. Verse 1 and then verse 7. Got to understand this stuff, y'all. Tabernacle gonna be right here on this earth, not in nowhere else. You ain't going nowhere. I even heard some of these other dispensations as well. You know, the Jews is gonna be on earth and we're gonna be up in the heavens. You know, because they still got that mindset that, okay, we still gonna keep ruling over these people. Because we can't deny who they are. So, but we gotta be above them, because that's just in our mindset. But it ain't gonna work like that. It's gonna be a total switch around. Ezekiel chapter 41, Trey, verse 1 and then verse 7. You still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Go ahead, son.
Ezekiel chapter verse 1 and then verse 7.
Yes, sir.
Afterward, he brought me to the temple and measured the posts, 6 cubits broad on the one side and 6 cubits broad on the other side, which was the breadth of the tabernacle. Verse 7. And there was an enlarging and a winding about upward to the side chambers. For the winding or the winding about the house went still upward round about the house. Therefore, the breadth of the house was still upward, and so increased from the lowest chamber to the highest by the midst.
So the temple is the place of the throne of Yahusha. See, so me, myself, I want to be right here. I want to be around where the tabernacle is going to be at, because that's where he's going to be at. That's where he's been trying to be at. That's his dwelling place. It's going to be that way later on, too. Now, temple is word H, number 1965, Hekal, or a palace. See? A place to prevail in power. Let's go to Revelation chapter 7, Trey. I think we did that one already, but it don't matter. Revelation chapter 7, verse 13 through 17, man.
Revelation chapter 7, verse 13 through 17. And one of the elders answered, saying unto me, what are these which are arrayed in white robes? And whence came? Where did they come from?
Oh, yeah. Now, we got that one. I'm sorry. Let's go to 11 and 19. We already showed that. That's where the only ones that you go see up there is the ones that got martyred. Or if you just happen to be alive to fight and take over Jerusalem. See, you had to fight to take that back from these devils that's over there right now. And I can show you some pictures of some of the stuff that they doing to these people over here. It's really sad. And they backed by this government and all this. And they over there murdering people. But we don't know that because we believe everything the news tells us. Right? They ain't even supposed to be over there. Just trying to show you ways to prove that and shut that down. Revelation 11 and 19, Trey.
Revelation in verse 19. And the temple of Elohim was open in the Shemayim, and there was seen in the temple the ark of his covenant.
All right, go to Revelation 13 and 6.
Revelation and verse 6. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she has place prepared of Elohim, that they shall feed her there 1,260 days.
Right, 3.5 years. That's where you go. That's the place of safety. Not floating away nowhere. Revelation 21, 1-3, Trey.
Revelation 21, verse 1-3. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. And I, John, saw the set apart city, New Jerusalem, coming down from Elohim out of the heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, Behold, the tabernacle of Elohim is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and Elohim shall be with them.
Just like that. Just like that. Because that's the whole plan. See, because then we're gonna be Elohim. That's what you was created to be. But again, we don't get taught these things. All right, now the garden was an example of the first house when Adam broke Elohim's commandment. Adam, being the high priest, firstborn king, had dominion over the earthly realm or temple and was supposed to replenish the earth. The master tried to rebuild or establish another house or bayet with Israel, and when the youngster, the firstborn priest and acting priest, and then Aaron rebelled with the people with Apis, the new house in the wilderness was polluted, causing a third changing of the priesthood. Hamashiach will see that. We'll see this later, right? So we already know about this. I think we did this one already. Let's go a little further. Yeah, we did these. I think we stopped right here, dealing with the second triangle of man, right? The house of Elohim on earth. This is what the tabernacle in the wilderness was supposed to be, right? The tabernacle in the wilderness. Okay, we're gonna stop. So we're gonna pick this up here next week. So, any questions? Because we've been learning a lot of stuff so far about this tabernacle. Now we're gonna start breaking this stuff down now. All the pieces of furniture, but we're gonna go through and we're gonna let me see where I'm at. I want you guys to totally understand this stuff. Let me see. We're gonna go through and we're gonna start breaking this. We're gonna break this down layer by layer. All of this, layer by layer. So you guys understand what's going on with this, what everything means. So you really don't want to be missing no classes if you can help it, because again, we're gonna learn about this temple, and the way we do it, we don't play around, we go in depth. Because I want y'all to understand what's going on. All right, so with that, hey, Nate.